This is a VHF radio installation. It's an ICOM radio installed into a Ford Maverick model 2023. I've done few Mavericks 2022. They are very similar, and in this particular case I decided to go right here. It's enough space for this VHF radio. Some people install radios here. I've done few radios like that on the passenger left foot leg area. You can install it here. You just have to make sure you go as far as forward as possible to allow the passenger seat to move as far as possible without damaging anything on the seat, pushing the radio, stuff like that. So you can install it here, and it's very easy. You just run the cables, one to the power, one to the antenna. It took me longer to install it here, and I'll show you a couple of tricks so you don't have to start thinking, digging, looking. It's best to pull this little box or trim, pull it out, and in order to pull it out, if you pry it down, it's going to damage the clips, the mounting clips. So this will come out this way. You have to pull it this way. I've done a few Mavericks before, but I keep forgetting how this one is mounted inside. So again, a clip goes here like that, one somewhere, one there, and 3 or 2 at the back. So you need to pull this thing forward in order to take it out. And why would you take it out? I mean, you could avoid that part, but it's easier for you to drill the radio bracket into this one, unless you have a very special drill, very low profile drill, and you can drill the screws, the bracket, and still you need to see where your screws are sticking out if you're not poking some harness. So for that reason I took it out, disconnected the harnesses, and I was able to see where my screws are coming out, and I use short screws. Sometimes I use nuts and bolts. In this case I saw the screws will hold in the plastic very well. I never had a radio coming down due to the vibration when the driver is going off-road. So I do this type of work for so many years, and I never had a customer coming back saying, yeah, your radio came down or something like that. So I took this thing out and I drilled one little bit larger hole, but you have to match it with antenna connector for your particular radio. Your radio connector, antenna connector might go on that side, some on this side. So for ICOM, the antenna connector, it's a PL259 connector. It's on this side, so you need to match the location of the coaxial cable hole, unless you want to move the radio a little bit forwards to stick out, and you have enough room to bend the coaxial cable behind and drill a tiny hole for the coaxial cable and the power cable. So that's the reason I decided to go with a little bit of a larger hole, about maybe a 1/4 inch maybe, but I had to align that connector. And in this case I've used an adapter, an FME adapter mounted at the end of the cable, and if someone wants to service the radio, they would have to take this one out and the cable would slide out. It's enough slack at the back. So that's kind of the idea. If the repairman does not know how the radio was installed, he will start complaining, swearing, and saying some bad words about the installer work. So you need to think that you may have to go back and repair the radio, take it on the bench for some repair later, a couple of years later, so you need to know how you install it. So I left enough room for a wrench to reach the two ICOM side screws on the bracket, so I can take the radio out without pulling all this assembly out. Again, you need to think in the future and a little bit forward for future repairs. Then the cable is running here, and to make my job a little bit easier, I had to take this glove compartment out, and for that it's better if you push these two clips and squeeze this part, the hinge, which is sort of a slow release hinge, and you squeeze it, pull this hinge out, this arm out, and then you take the glove compartment and you can access the fuses much easier, and you can run your cable much easier behind this glove compartment. And I run the cables here. I labeled a little bit. Usually I use a sticky label with a printer, label printer, but on this one I just wrote it's a VHF radio. I did a quick job because they had to move some other things inside of the garage, so I was in a hurry, and I've used a fuse adapter. This is not the nicest, but that was the only fuse I could find that was switched. Now some people may make a comment that they always use a relay because it's going to start a fire, cause a fire, and all those, you know. I've seen installers do this type of stuff for a living, and they always use a relay, and it takes some time to install a relay. Yesterday actually I uninstalled a radio which has a relay connected to auxiliary, and yeah, that's I used to do that long time ago, and someone showed me, said, no, you know what, if you correct it correctly to the right fuse, the fuse that is in line with this fuse, it's large enough that will support the extra 9 amps this radio takes, about 9 amps at 50 watts. I measured that many times, different radios at 50 watts, which is lots of power. Yeah, you get about 9 amp. So you need to connect it to correct fuse. But if you want to use an accessory relay, you can do that. That is just some extra waste. Maybe it's a good idea. Fuses, you will find the fuses at page 300 or 301 into the Maverick owner manual, in case you start digging and you get frustrated. So page 300. See, this one is supposed to come down nicely. If it doesn't, that means you did not mount it properly. So the coaxial cable, the power cable, goes at the back somewhere. I use some insulation loom to protect the cables, especially the power cable. And the antenna, it's installed with a fender bracket. Now, if you don't do anything on this thing, if you don't modify the gap here is too small, and it's going to pinch the cable. It's going to destroy the cable. Yesterday I've done some work in a car, and the customer gave me the old cable, but it was all brittle and pinched because of whoever installed it left the original manufacturing gap between the fender and the hood. So what I do usually is I loosen the two nuts of the hood hinges, which I don't recommend you to do that unless you have mechanical skills and patience, and I adjust the hood left, right, until I make a gap larger here, but here is almost the same. You won't see, because it's just like you need just 2 millimeters. You don't need much. Or in my case, what I did, there are fender bolts here, 3, and I undone those. I pulled this one because it's easier to pull here than here. I pulled it a little bit, right? So I increased the gap between the hood and the fender. So I pulled it and then tightened this one and then tighten this one. So I increased the gap maybe 2 more millimeters to allow the cable to go free inside here without having the cable pinched, because it gets pinched in case you're a new installer or you are just installing a radio for yourself, trying to do it by yourself, save some money, whatever reasons. If you just try to squeeze the cable somewhere like that, you might be able to go here, but it's sticking out too ugly. Or you can install the antenna somewhere else, use an L bracket. I used to install with just 90-degree, very basic, simple brackets. But now we get this custom fender brackets. And as you see here, I don't know if you see, there is a piece of rubber tape, about a millimeter thick rubber tape, to prevent this thing to scrape the paint during vibration or when the water gets stuck in there. And also there are 2 metal screws through the bracket holding the fender, so this is really solid. It can go off-road for 20 years and the antenna won't come out like the old one. Old ones, the 90-degree brackets always come out, they always get loose after a couple of years. Then the screws, the 3 screws get rusty, the bolts get enlarged, and just make a mess. Now it's a better design, this custom brackets for different type of trucks, which I like. But that's the idea. I had to increase the gap here, and I'll finish my explanation here. During the summer, this thing, the hood expands, then this one softens, and vibration, then the twisting of the frame of this truck when going off-road is going to bite little by little, bite into the cable jacket, causing the water to seep in and causing the copper shielding to get damaged, and so you get bad cable, bad antenna performance. And that's the reason on all my installation I make sure this gap is here is large enough to allow the cable to move freely inside. But like I said, sometimes I install, depends on the car brand, I install it somewhere here. It might be too close to the windshield, but the thing is it's symmetrical to the FM antennas, and in this case the FM antenna is on the roof, and it's the only antenna on this truck. Like I said, some other trucks have the FM antenna here, so I have to keep my VHF antenna away from that. So that's kind of the basic idea. There is a firewall grommet here between the engine compartment and the driver compartment or the cabin inside. And the large cable grommet, it's like this big, it has a nipple, a little thing that's sticking out, and I cut a little slice, and I use a fishing rod, make sure I'm not poking wires. I had someone who tried to use a poking rod to go through that type of grommet, and yeah, I did not like it. So I asked the guy to stop doing it. He was a very smart tech, but I think someone taught him how to poke the rubber with some sort of a sharp, long rod. We had someone long time ago, a new guy, who poked the cables, it destroyed the harness, so the customer had to build back our company. Yeah, so things happen, but you learn from it. You learn from previous other people's mistakes, like the way we learn from wars, and we learn from errors, and we improve lives. And now I'm passing on my knowledge here, a little bit of my experience. Talk to you later. Bye bye.